Hello and welcome to Always in Escrow with Serena Appel and Colby Burchin. Hello, Colby.
Hi, Serena. How are you?
I'm fantastic because we are joined today by Kit Gilbert, who is the president of Napa's Simon Family Estate Vineyards. With years of wine and industry expertise, Kit shares her vision for crafting exceptional wines and building a brand that brings people together. Kit, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Serena. Thank you, Colby. Great to be here.
I'm super excited. Kid, how did your past experience shape your approach at Simon Family Estate?
That's an amazing question, and we don't have 3 hours, so I'll try to keep it brief. But I started my career really at 16, going into 18 in conservatory. I was in a music and theater conservatory and spent about 10 years in my acting and singing career, which took me from New York to London to Los Angeles. I moved into being a casting director and working for production companies, MTV, VH1, which really led me to a love of marketing and a love of building brands. And I realized very quickly I didn't really enjoy building my own brand. I didn't like selling myself, which is what an actor really needs to do. I liked highlighting other brands that I was passionate about, super passionate about. I fell in love with wine, and it's a story that I've heard again and again in this industry. It really encapsulates so much. I also have a intense passion for chemistry, for history, for culture, for just people around the world, geography, travel, and wine encapsulates all of that. So I followed that passion, and truthfully, wine is theater, right? It's storytelling, it's connecting with others, right? And all of that, it's so inextricable for me that I can't imagine the two without each other.
Beautiful. I love coming onto the stage with you today. So, what have been some of the biggest challenges you faced in the wine industry and how do you overcome them?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I'll start with the present, which is we're in an environment where we have over 1,000 brands here, just here in the Napa Valley. The Napa Valley is 30 miles long, just to give you a little context. We're roughly about the same size of one of the most prominent wine regions for the last several thousand years, and that's Burgundy, right? So we're this tiny little wine region with intense competition. And yet, um, wonderfully, I think we don't feel that we're in competition with one another. It's high tides raise all boats. But that said, there are so many wonderful producers who are crafting exquisite wines. The terroir here in the Napa Valley just can't be beat, right? And so we're all out there vying for the attention of the collector and of those fine dining restaurants. And so it's how do we set ourselves apart, right? How do we tell a story that is unique? How do we craft wines that exceed expectations? And so for me, it's really about leaning less on tradition and looking out towards other industries, looking at, my background in entertainment, or looking to even the automotive industry, or haute couture, or where can we look to see how others are innovating, reaching their audiences, connecting, communicating, to tell our story in a way that's truly authentic, right? Because I think that's what people want. At the end of the day, when we're sharing a glass of wine, it's me getting to know you, it's you getting to know me, it's creating a lifelong friendship. And so we really have to think deeply about how we're communicating.
It's the connections.
It's the connections. It really is. It's so important. And that's what made me fall in love with wine. And I think anyone else who has fallen in love with wine, it's not about pretension. It's not about kind of the wine sometimes gets a bad rap. People are a little bit afraid of it. It can be intimidating. The labels are often in another language, and there are all these designations that, unless you've studied wine, what the heck does that mean, right? And so we're afraid to maybe talk to the sommelier who might turn their nose up at us. But really, truly, at the core of it, wine is about connections. It's about making memories. It's about opening that bottle and breaking bread, which is primal, right? It's a primal need that we all have. And so, anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but that's how I see it.
No, I get it. This leads me to my next question. What role does sustainability play in your vineyard?
It's huge. It's huge for me personally. It's huge for the Simon family, for my entire team. We all really believe deeply that we have an opportunity. Agriculture is responsible for more than 30% of all carbon emissions on the planet. Now, wine growing may not be a huge piece of that puzzle, but we can have a really big impact, right? So, and then beyond agriculture, there's our packaging and the thing that nobody thinks about, which is shipping. So when we ship a bottle of wine, you could be shipping a 50-pound case. And you can only imagine what impact that has if it's put on a flight overnight, if it's put on a flight across the world to one of our markets in Asia. It's really impactful. And so we're thinking about every step of the way, what can we do better? In our model, we're partnering with generational growers here in the Napa Valley. So we're talking about people who have farmed this land often for more than 100 years in their family. And they care deeply about their land. They have to care about sustainability. It's part of the business model, right? And of course, they care about excellence. They're growing some of the very best fruit in the Napa Valley, which means they're growing some of the very best fruit in the world. So often they're certified organic, often they're certified sustainable, often they're practicing methods that don't necessarily have a certification, but they're doing the right thing. So that's one piece of the puzzle for us, is partnering with people who are doing the right thing in the vineyard. And then when it comes to our packaging, you have the bottle of rosé. We just moved in this recent vintage completely away from capsules. So we're all familiar. Here's an older vintage, so you can see the capsule on the top here. We don't think about that very often, right? It's just a capsule. We're used to seeing it on every bottle of wine. Little do most people know, but this is one of the highest pieces of carbon footprint when it comes to a bottle of wine. Frequently, because of where it's coming from, largely these are manufactured in Europe, and so they're getting on a big ship and coming here to the US. So they're traveling a long distance just to get to us, and then people don't know how to recycle them. So they often just go in a landfill. Whereas wax, when you recycle your bottle, that wax is just going to melt away. It goes away, has no negative effect on the environment. So we've moved all of our bottles to wax versus capsule. And last of all, we're drastically reducing the weight of our bottle. So when they're being shipped, we're shipping less weight and thus less carbon footprint.
That's so smart. I wouldn't even think of that. And now looking at these bottles, you're so right. That's incredible.
And I think it's beautiful too, right? It's beautiful.
I love it.
It really has a level of sophistication, that it caps it off in a way that, just the regular seal doesn't. So that's incredible that you've come to that. So that's a new addition. It's just kind of rolling out now.
Just rolling out now. So with the 2022 vintage, which will be released next year, 2025.
Beautiful. So let's talk about these different bottles that I have, and what you want to share, what's behind you, how people can taste these fantastic wines.
Absolutely. So we'll start with the Simon Family Estate Rosé that you have behind you. This is 100% Grenache. Grenache is originally from the old world, of course, like all varieties that we're planting here in the Napa Valley. But it's very, very much we've moved away from Grenache here in the Napa Valley. As we say, Cabernet is king. So most Grenache plantings that, could be predate the 20th century even, have been removed in favor of Cabernet Sauvignon. So this is one of the last 3 plantings that we know of Grenache in the Napa Valley. It's from the Rutherford appellation. And we are harvesting this fruit specifically to produce a rosé. Typically in California, rosé is produced by a method called saigner, or to bleed in French. And so you're making your red wine. In order to make it a little bit more concentrated, you're going to bleed off some of that lighter juice. You could let it go down the drain or bottle it as a rosé. For us, this is an intentional rosé. So this is harvested in order to produce a rosé in what we call the Provençal style. So as is done in Provence, this yields a very light-bodied, low alcohol, yet very complex wine, high in acidity, very refreshing, very crisp and energetic. Colby, you'll taste it soon, and you'll love to pair it with your Florida weather. But I think of this almost the way I think of champagne. Champagne is the ultimate versatile pairing, right? You could have it with caviar and potato chips or a hamburger. It goes with everything. And rosé is a little bit like that. It's also wonderful for the Thanksgiving table, right? Because it just pairs with anything that you might put on your plate. So that's the rosé. The rosé is called Tigress.
What is that from?
Yeah, so that's an ode to the matriarch of the family, Netta Simon. She is just the ultimate matriarch, and I couldn't love her more. She is so fierce. She's so elegant. She's just everything you would imagine when you think of the noble tigress. Our inside joke, which maybe I shouldn't reveal this on a podcast, but what the heck, I'm going to do it. Don't tell anyone else. So Netta is 5 years older than her husband, Sam, but we thought it would be a little too much to call it cougar. So here we are with Tigress. That's the inside joke. Yeah, and I'll share a little bit about Sam and Netta because they're just incredible people. They are both of Armenian heritage, both separately, but their families fled persecution in Iraq and landed here in the Detroit area in 1973. Netta specifically arrived as an orphan and was placed with an uncle. She spoke not a word of English. And as she puts it, she spent those first 3 years crying and then woke up one day and said, failure's not an option. So she put herself through college. And by the time she met Sam, her husband, she was 26 years old on the 36th floor of the Ford Motor Building as one of the company's very first female VPs. And that's 1986. So, as I said, fierce. She was also Sam's second employee. So they were introduced at church, and their priest said, well, Sam is looking for a salesperson, and you should meet Netta. Netta said, absolutely not. I'm not coming to your little rinky-dink company. And he courted and he courted and he courted, and eventually she went to work for him, and is, ultimately just one of the reasons for their amazing success. Sam's family also came to this country. They came with negative $200 in their pocket, and at 19 years old, Sam had already been running his dad's business of a handful of gas stations, and had 22 employees at the age of 16 when he dropped out of high school to help out. And he maxed out a credit card, bought a fuel truck, and started driving the fuel himself to these gas stations. And very long story short, ultimately today, his company, Atlas Energy, is heavily in renewables, but they also transport a great deal of the fuel that's transported in this country. So just an amazing immigrant success story, and a beautiful family.
Beautiful story. That's amazing.
Yeah, they're really, truly incredible people. When you walk into their offices, there's a big sign on the door that says, we don't invest in companies, we invest in people. And that's so true.
Great statement.
Next wine.
Tell us.
Okay, wonderful. So this might be a Sauvignon Blanc, unlike Sauvignon Blanc that you're used to from California, although there is a contingent that is moving in this more really focusing on fine wine and age-worthy Sauvignon Blanc. So unlike many, this is fermented and then aged for 18 months in French oak, largely neutral oak. And what we're getting from that is we're supporting the very, very high acidity, bright flavors, on that electric acidity with weight on the mid palate and the complexity that we get from that extended oak aging. So this is a wine that was inspired by a very famous, world famous wine called Y. It's a still wine made by Chateau Yquem. Chateau Yquem is in Bordeaux. They make one of the finest and most world-renowned dessert wines of the world, a Sauterne. But their aigrette is a still wine, and it's a beautiful, dry, crisp, just complex, just one of those wines that makes you stop and go. And so that was the inspiration for this wine. Aigrette is one of Sam's very favorite wines of the world. And so we wanted to craft a wine that truly paid homage to the variety, but also the terroir here in the Napa Valley. So this is coming from the Ash Vineyard in Oakville. And then the last wine that we have today is our Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. So I'll share with you the label, and you have it too. That's great. This is really an ode to the family. There's so much in here to talk about, but very faintly in the background is Mount Ararat. Mount Ararat is in Armenia. I mentioned their Armenian heritage. It is also considered by many the cradle of wine civilization. So archaeologists discovered just a few years ago a 6,000-year-old winery at Mount Ararat.
Ooh,
Yes,
love that.
really incredible. So, and Mount Ararat, if you're not familiar, is the national symbol of Armenia. It's where Noah was said to have parked his ark. So it's a very special place with incredible history, beautiful vineyards, and so that's our little ode to heritage as well. And this Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. So I have to mention our winemaker, Mayan Kashitsky. Mayan is, I would say he's a rising star, but that's old news. His star has risen. He journeyed here from his home country of Israel in 2010 for an internship at a winery he had never heard of called Screaming Eagle. And he arrived in one harvest at Screaming Eagle and was immediately put in their assistant winemaker position. He moved on to Dalla Valle, where he was assistant winemaker. And then Philippe Malka, really one of the foremost winemakers here in the Napa Valley and worldwide, grabbed him up and hired him as his director of winemaking, which he is to this day, in addition to having a couple of his own clients. He is our winemaker, though. He's not our consulting winemaker, which means that he makes every shot, right? He's not just delegating to someone else. These wines are crafted by Mayan. Mayan has selected some of the very best vineyard sites in the Napa Valley. These are sites that normally one, A, wouldn't have access to, and B, certainly wouldn't have access to blending into one wine. So we start in Coombsville with the Colonnetta Vineyard, Sleeping Lady in Yountville, and the opposing sides of Oakville, Vine Hill Ranch, and Tench Family Vineyard. And that is what's in this glass of Cabernet Sauvignon.
Beautiful.
We have a couple more wines, but I just want to show you this bottle. This is our Simon Reserve. This hand-etched bottle.
Love that. Chic.
Chic. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So this is 100% Cabernet Sauvignon from Tench, Vine Hill Ranch, and a touch of Colonnetta from Coombsville. So we get from Oakville power, texture, just everything that makes that region so world famous. With, for me, the magic here is just the freshness of the fruit from Coombsville. So this is not heavy and rich and one note. This wine has an incredible amount of complexity and an ability to age. So I'm excited to taste this wine 40 years from now, as much as I love drinking it today. This is a wine with real longevity. And then I have to share, at the risk of bragging a little bit, although I didn't make it, so it had nothing to do with me, our 2021 vintage. This is our second vintage of this wine, and it received a perfect 100-point score from Decanter.
Whoa.
So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, you could be proud of that.
Right.
Yes, very proud.
So, curiosity, how do you cultivate a team culture that focuses on excellence in such a demanding and creative industry?
Oh, that's such a wonderful question. And for me, it's the crux of everything, right? It's all about people, and it's about having just wonderful people who are wildly passionate about what they do. I often tell people, if here in the wine industry, if you're not passionate about wine, please just get out of the industry and do something else. This is you're here for passion and for creativity, and I think sharing with the team that the sky is the limit, focusing on what we want to do and what our vision is for 10 years from now, 100 years from now, 200 years from now. And that's, I think, one thing that really sets us apart is we're not thinking about next month. Of course, we're thinking about next month, but it's not the main focus. The main focus is making decisions that prepare us for excellence 100 years from now. And I think that is it's a different mindset.
It's the long game.
It's the long game, and it's so important when it comes to great wines of the world. Um, just for an example, if we make a decision in the vineyard that sets us up for success next vintage, but maybe puts us in a bad position for 3 years from now, it can be a financial hardship to look at the long range plan. And it creates a need for more creativity, for more agility, especially on the sales and marketing side. But when we make those hard decisions, we know that we're going to have the best quality in the bottle. And that's just so important. It sets us up in a place where my entire team, no one on my team considers themselves a salesperson. Nobody, because we have never asked for a sale. The wine sells and speaks for itself, and that's really, really important to me as well. This is a wine that we hope people will enjoy, they'll share, and they want it. Right? They want it to be a part of their lives, and that's incredibly important.
Okay, so just we're going to step away for a quick minute to talk about how you balance the demands of vineyard life with raising two children.
Serena, I'm not sure. I'm so imperfect at it. But and I think that's part of the journey. Number one, I have an amazing partner, and I'm so blessed and grateful that I have a partner who supports my career, is just the best dad ever. And so I'm really blessed in that arena. Also, I think it's so important that we take care of ourselves, and I really something I struggle with, but I really try to make sure I take care of my health, my nutrition, exercise. These are things. Once that's balanced out, it feels a lot easier to make time and space for everything that needs to get done. But I also we've worked together as a team. We've implemented something called EOS, the Entrepreneur's Operating System. And so for our company, we came together as a leadership team to determine our own values. So this is not something that I created and pushed down on the team, or that our owners created and pushed down. We created this as a team. And one of our main values is family first. So if a kid gets sick, nobody in the office is going to look at you sideways when you have to leave and go pick them up. If you have to volunteer for reading group, which by the way, I'm doing in a couple of hours, no one is going to look at you sideways and say, "Where are you going? I can't believe you're not here in the office 20 hours a day." And I think that's so vitally important. We all know that if everything is going to get done, it's going to get done at an excellent level, but that we need to take care of our families first.
I love that. That's great.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really special and
Sure.
an incredible value of a team. And yeah, it makes it more pleasurable to work there, I'm sure, where there's understanding.
I hope so. I mean, many of
Yeah.
us have small children, so we've got to have each other's back. We have to.
100%.
Absolutely. How do you do it? How do you all handle family and and work?
Well, same thing what you said, taking care of, myself and the exercise and the health and the nutrition, doing all of that for me, and it's a lot of work. It is. It's a lot of work, but it all makes sense and it all kind of balances out. It feels, once I feel good, everything else feels good.
The cup overflows.
Correct. Whatever you're putting out there, your kids feel it, so you want to make sure you yourself are in a good place.
And a glass of wine is part of that lifestyle every once in a while.
So
I agree.
tell us about how our viewers can find time to sit down and have a glass with you, to join you in that beautiful vault there. What are the possibilities for that, for tasting? Where can our audience find your incredible products?
Thank you for asking. And I would love, by the way, I would love to host any of your viewers. So this is a secret little tasting salon here in Napa. We don't have a sign, but certainly sign up for our mailing list. Mailing list members and those who are referred by the mailing list, or certainly any of your listeners, can contact us via our website, which is simonfamilyestate.com. Or please just reach out to me personally. I'm Kit, Kit, at simonfamilyestate.com. And I would be delighted to share the wines.
You are a delight.
Oh, you are.
Wonderful sharing this, table, the stage, and hearing from you. It was just really so enjoyable. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
I so appreciate you both. Thank you so much.